Appeals. Some public hearing agenda items. If you wish to make public comments on an application, we have comment slips at the speaker stand next to the podium. For future notification purposes, it is very important that you fill out a slip and drop it in the box when you come forward to speak. Please state your full name, mailing address, and zip code before addressing the board. We will call each case on the agenda in order and hear first from the applicant, then those speaking in favor. 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. We will then hear from those wishing to speak against an application. Again, 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. One representative of the application may then speak in rebuttal if desired. After hearing comments on each case, the board will then immediately deliberate and vote on that case before moving on to the next case on our agenda. Please note that when the board is deliberating, members of the public are not permitted to comment. Any member of the public may request a copy of the board's decisions on a particular case by contacting our office at 318-673-6480 after 1 p.m. tomorrow, or by accessing our website at shreveportcaddompc.com. All of the ZBA decisions are subject to appeal to either the City Council or the Parish Commission, depending on the location of the property in question. Please note that it is your responsibility to contact the appropriate governing body about their procedures as related to the matter you are concerned with. Copies of this document and phone numbers to contact the governing bodies are available on the table next to the podium and in the entryway to this room. As a courtesy, please remember to turn off cell phones while the zoning board is in session. The Zoning Board of Appeals values your testimony and appreciates your compliance with these guidelines. What do we hear regarding approval of minutes for May 17th, 2017?
Recommend to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Bergeron, second by Mr. Hendricks. To approve, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, our first case today is tab 4, which is case BAC 5417, 2929 Amelia Avenue.
My name is Aline Myers. I live on 2929 Amelia Avenue. I'm here to get approval to put a small mobile modular home on my property for my 23-year-old daughter.
All right, Ms. Myers, just for the record, would you tell us your zip code?
71108.
Thank you, ma'am. And so this is a pre-constructed new unit?
Yes.
Are you getting the optional covered porch?
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the board for Ms. Myers?
Have you talked to your neighbors? Does anybody have any concerns?
I've talked to a couple of neighbors. They didn't have any concern.
We do have one letter of opposition. I'll bring that to the attention of the board. Not clear who it's from. They are also under the assumption it's a trailer, which technically we know it's not, but just for your information, here's a letter in the back. All right, any further questions for Ms. Myers?
I hope it's a safe question. What led you to the tiny house?
Well, I've seen it advertised, and I just decided to get, that a tiny house instead of having one built, and it was, cost less.
Thank you.
Question that just occurred to me for staff or for Mr. Sweeney or Mr. Jean. Her house appears to be brick,
Yeah.
brick facade, brick veneer. Does
It's
this need
like
to be the
stucco-
same
stucco
materials
brick.
As an accessory structure?
It depends on what kind of materials. Is it just simply brick, or is it also?
Well, that's what I can't tell. I mean, it looks like from the front, it's all brick. It's all brick except for a portion of the screen porch to the rear, which is mostly windows, but some siding for skirting. I just didn't know what this, we haven't discussed this before with these new types of structures.
That's a very good question, but we believe those rules are applicable to the accessory structures, which is like if you're having a storage building, but not necessarily for a secondary residential. But we're gonna look that up for you right now.
Okay.
But that's a very valid question.
I mean, it seems it should apply to all structures.
You would think that under the old code that
Right.
that's a dangerous assumption.
No, sure,
But
I'm
we'll
just-
look at it.
okay.
Well, it always seemed like that was one of the
Yeah.
things, is you wanted to match the house.
Right. All right.
It-
Any more questions for Ms. Myers?
Will it be painted the same color?
It
as
will
the
be
house?
painted the same color, same side and everything.
Does your house have any wood siding on it?
Wood side in the back.
In the
And-
back,
Yes, and stucco side in the front.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for case BAC 54-17? All right. I assume no, but anyone here to speak against BAC 54-17? All right, what do we hear?
Move to approve with this.
Motion by Mr. Cooper to approve with STIPs. Second by Ms. Pearson. Discussion?
What's the stipulation?
Yeah, it's actually as submitted. There are no STIPs on this particular case.
And I'll resubmit, move to approve.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to approve as submitted. And second by Ms. Pearson.
Did we look that up? I thought we were waiting to hear something
Yeah.
from.
We're looking.
Oh,
at this.
okay.
You wanna just pause for a minute, we'll verify.
There's nothing in the secondary residential description that says that. It just says it has to have adequate square footage on the lot.
Okay.
I don't see, are you aware of that?
It never was. That was
Okay, I
never
didn't think it was.
consideration for secondary.
Okay, good to
Only
know.
accessory use.
Only accessory.
So if this was a storage building, it would have to, but it's a secondary residential, that doesn't make sense. But,
Okay.
you know, what can
But
I
you can
say?
put, but you have ability to put conditions.
Right.
Right.
So if you wanted to make it, you know, where it matched the materials, you could, but that's probably the reason why, because you have the ability to apply conditions.
All right, the motion on the floor is to approve as submitted. If no further discussion, please vote now. Motion carries unanimously. Tab 5 is case BAC 56-17, 8943 Kingston Road.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Kelsch, address 4913 Shed Road, Bossier City, Louisiana. I work for Raylene Associates. We're the engineers representing CHC Realty. I want to start off by thanking you for hearing our case. We appreciate it. We understand that the ordinance states that commercial property abutting residential property requires a screening fence for the entire length of the property abutting the residential side. We're requesting a variance for that requirement. I've read the staff report, and I'm aware of their recommendation of approving the application subject to placing a 6-foot solid fence to the end of our proposed developed area. We appreciate that variance recommendation and are certainly certainly willing to take that over nothing at all. But I do want to argue and ask for a variance of the entire fence for the entire length. If you'll let me, I got a couple points of argument to make for that request.
All right, just 1 second, again, for the
Yes,
record,
sir.
I need your zip code. For your
Oh, I'm sorry, 71111.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
Okay, first point, the residential property in question it's actually a church. It's not your typical residential development. It's not houses, apartments, etc. Hours of operation, I would assume, are nighttime and weekends, likely Wednesday night, likely Sundays. The proposed development, hours of operation will be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, so we won't be operating at the same time as the residential development next to us. We're proposing for an indoor light storage or indoor storage facility. Everything will be indoor storage. It will be light materials. There won't be any type of heavy equipment. Like I said, there'll be no outdoor storage, no outdoor operations. Thus, we don't think that the noise will be a factor for the residential area. Also, the proposed building will be located on the opposite side of the existing office building that's on the site from the residence. There's also an existing parking lot that is located with that existing building. That parking lot will remain a parking lot. There won't be any storage on that parking lot. That office building will remain an office building. No storage in that. The only storage will be in the proposed building, which is on the opposite side of the existing building from the church. So, therefore, we don't think there'll be any increased eyesores for the residential development next to us or church next to us. And lastly, I've given some pictures, and I've got some I can pass out, some pictures we took. The rear of our property is extremely wooded. There's an extreme wooded buffer zone, and that's likely why the MPC is maybe recommending that we don't have to have a fence for the entire length, because there's extreme wooded area there, and in order to install that fence the entire length, we're likely going to have to cut down some trees on our property as well. The front of our property is lightly wooded. I think the staff report notes that you can still see through there. It's not near as buffered as the back. But with that being said, our argument is that what the church can see through, and you can see through the pictures, is the existing parking lot and the existing building. I don't think it's going to be anything new eyesores for the church. And with that being said, again, I appreciate y'all's time hearing the case. Like I said, I have these pictures I can pass out to y'all. There's also a letter. I don't know that it does much good, because it's from the we got a letter from the owners across the street, the businesses across the street. They don't have a problem with it, but I think the main concern is probably the residential, not necessarily the owners. But with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
All right, we appreciate your detailed
Yes, sir.
photographs for sure. It always helps us, and also your proactive stance in bringing them to us.
Yes, sir.
I hope also, though, that you can appreciate that we have to look toward the future.
Understand.
Also, any variance we give may extend to an operator who comes behind you. So while you may not have any outdoor storage now, you may change that, or someone else may come in and change that. So it's partially some of the things we have to take in consideration.
Yes, sir. And if I can respond to that, it's under we would definitely be willing to accept a variance for our particular building right now, and if anything changes in the future, have them come back to the board for approval. And I know anything that changes on the site, as far as site plan, we'll have to go back to the MPC for site plan approval.
Right. All right. Any questions from the board?
So, no, I'm good. I have discussion.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Anyone else wish to speak for case BAC 56-17? Anyone wish to speak against BAC 56-17? What do we hear?
I did have one question.
Okay.
How tall is the building?
It was on the site plan. I can't recall. It's been a while. 21 and a half feet. That's roof and all. I think the
How tall is
site.
the existing building to the roof line?
I'm not certain on that.
Just the question is, will the new building be taller than the old?
I'm not 100% on that. I'm sorry.
It'd probably be taller, but how much taller?
I would assume the existing building is probably a 12, 14 foot wall height, and then a pitched roof. So I would assume it'd be close, and maybe a couple feet, one way or the other.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over here.
I move to approve with some stipulations that I'd like to, I thought of while he was discussing.
All right. So we need a second.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, state your stipulation. My apologies.
And this is how I'm coming up with the stipulations. I was under the impression it was going to be outside storage when we initially brought this up. But if it's enclosed, this would be my stipulation. That it be approved without having to build a fence until this occurs. Storage outside that existing, outside that new building occurs. And at that point in time, a fence would have to go up. This would be on both sides of the property, the north and south. But if it hadn't been developed on the north side yet, you wouldn't have to do it till it was developed, but it would have to occur on the church side, the 220 feet, I think is what we said. And then it would be relooked at if they developed anything further on that property at that time. It would be stipulated that you might have to put a fence up at that time, depending on how it's developed. And that's I think I covered all the bases there, but I might be wrong.
All right. So that's a motion by Mr. Bergeron. Do we have a second?
Second again.
Second by Mr. Cooper. All right. So further discussion. So
can I just clarify that the trigger is whether or not they do outside storage at any point in time, whether it's them or a future owner?
Correct.
Because this follows the land, not the owner.
Exactly.
And then at that time, that would trigger a requirement for them to put in a fence, their screening fence. And then if the property on the other side, which we originally was not a part of this application, was ever developed residentially, then that too, they would have to put the screening fence there.
Correct. So two different triggers.
That's right. Gotcha.
But the one trigger, as long as it maintained inside, the one on the north side would not have to have a screening fence until, if it started to develop on the north side residentially, the screening fence wouldn't occur until they started storing outside or had further development.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I got it.
Discussion? Are you good with stipulation for the record? Okay. All right. So if no further discussion, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, that brings us to the end of the public hearing. Do we have any reports, Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, just very briefly, we'll keep this a short meeting as we intend for it to be.
just to let you know that, and I told this to the MPC board 2 weeks ago, if you go to our website, the MPC website, you're going to see a series of new forms, applications, and procedures that have been under construction for quite some time. We were racing very quickly to get as much information out there to the public, because when the new UDC went into effect on May the 15th, it was imperative that we have the basic information available for people so they could continue without skipping a beat to make application and go through the process. So all of that stuff has been almost completely updated for the city. The parish, we have a separate section that's for the parish, because since the parish has not adopted the UDC, their section remains pretty much as it was, but we had to split those apart from the city so it was very clear if someone was applying within the city versus out in the parish. We have provided, this is one of the things I think is really exciting, we have always had a lot of concerns and issues about our zoning map. We have, from our efforts at our national conference, we made connections with ESRI, and we were able to come up with a new way to do our zoning map, so that now if you go on our website and access our zoning map, it is now an interactive map that gives you a lot more information and more specifics and is easier to operate. And so that has been a kind of a major change we've made, and right now the developers are very, very, very pleased with that, because they have always been asking for this to be available to them, and we've been able to deliver on that. So that's been a major improvement in our website. So just to continue on, I expect to continue working with the parish and trying to develop something. I mentioned at our previous meeting, at our lunch meeting, that it will be a separate standalone UDC in the parish as well as in the city. The two will be 99.9% the same, but the difference, the primary dividing difference, is that any changes made in the parish UDC will be totally taken care of through the parish commission. Any changes made on the city UDC will be totally taken care of through the city council. So they didn't want to share that responsibility. So we'll have essentially the same document, but with a few changes. And we're working on those changes right now. I hope to have, hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed, there'll be something in place perhaps as early as the latter part of August or in September, with a hopefully there'll be an approval of the parish side of that equation. We are in the process of doing what I call housekeeping or corrective changes. Once you have adopted something, you find out there's a lot of holes or errors or mistakes or sections that were inadvertently left out that were not supposed to be left out. So I have already given the MPC board a list of about, I think it's like 27 housekeeping changes that will make the UDC a little better, having seen those errors. And they will be voting on those on their July 5th board meeting. And then it'll go on to City Council later in July. And we'll do those same housekeeping changes to the parish as well whenever they do their adoption. So it's like anything else. It's like driving a new car or a used car. You get in there and there's something that you didn't think about, or something somebody just didn't put it together exactly the way you would hope for. So it's not massive changes, it's just tweaks and adjustments. And so we'll be doing that probably in other versions. That will be other things we'll do in the future to clean some things up. This is our first effort to do that, so that'll make it more streamlined and easier to understand in terms of the document. So having said that, the only other thing I was going to mention to you before I stopped talking was one of the things I'm undertaking, and I've already gotten budget approval for this, is to do a financial sustainability study for the MPC. And never in the history of this organization has anyone sat down and tried to put all the pieces together as to how much the city gives us and how much the parish gives us in terms of funding, And are there other ways we could improve on our efficiency in terms of cost as well as revenue? And that covers the full gamut of what type of benefits we have, our retirement program, and all those things that come together. So we were able to move some funds around, and we've already contracted with a firm that will be doing the analysis. And why am I telling you this? Because we're getting ready to do our budget, and I want to have some answers for both the city council and the parish when it comes time to establish our funding. And I think this is an opportune time to answer some of the questions that keep coming up year after year after year. And it's not to say that I don't really know what the answers are going to be. It's kind of a roll of the dice. But the reality is, it's time to have some definitive ideas and things that we can do either in the near future or in the not too distant future to make sure the organization is financially sustainable. So just want to let you know the firm that we've contracted with is Tischler Weiss. And they were a firm that was did some analysis work during the master plan that was done back in 2010, working with Goody Clancy as a subcontractor. So I'll keep you up to date on that, because I think it's going to be very interesting, because as y'all all know, if you don't have the finances in place and don't have a good business plan, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're not going to be able to accomplish anything if you don't have that in order. So something that's very important to me, and something that I think is very important to the organization as a whole. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any other staff reports or comments from the board? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.